Have you ever noticed how some people in their 70s seem to move through life with an ease and vitality that defies every expectation we have about aging? While most of their peers struggle with basic daily tasks, these remarkable individuals maintain their independence, their joy, and their purpose with what seems like effortless grace. What if I told you that only 2% of people over 70 possess a specific set of abilities that separate them from everyone else? These aren't genetic gifts or lucky accidents. They're deliberate choices and cultivated habits that anyone can develop, regardless of where they are right now in their journey. Today, we're going to explore 8 defining characteristics that set this extraordinary 2% apart. More importantly, we'll discover how you can begin incorporating these traits into your own life, starting today. Because here's the truth that pharmaceutical companies don't want you to know. Aging doesn't have to mean declining. Growing older can actually mean growing stronger, wiser, and more at peace with yourself and the world around you. Let's begin with something that might surprise you. The first ability that distinguishes this elite 2% is something doctors consider one of the most reliable predictors of longevity. It's the strength to stand up from the floor without using your hands, arms, or knees for support. Now, when was the last time you tried this? For most people over 70, getting down on the floor is something to be avoided at all costs. And if they do end up there, getting back up requires assistance, furniture to grab onto, or a complicated maneuver that leaves them exhausted and embarrassed. But the 2% who thrive into their later years maintain this fundamental ability because it represents something much deeper than simple muscle strength. This movement requires balance, flexibility, coordination, and body control working in perfect harmony. Studies have shown that people who can perform this test score significantly higher on longevity scales than those who cannot. Why? Because this ability indicates that your musculoskeletal system is functioning the way nature intended, that your nervous system can coordinate complex movements, and that you haven't surrendered to the belief that your body is fragile and failing. Consider Helen, a 78-year-old woman who regularly gets down on the floor to play with her great-grandson. She doesn't think of it as exercise. She thinks of it as living. She stretches there, she reads there, and she rises from there with the same fluid motion she's maintained for decades. Helen didn't achieve this through expensive gym memberships or complicated workout routines. She simply never stopped moving in ways that challenge her body to maintain its full range of capabilities. The second characteristic of this exceptional 2% is a mind that refuses to stop learning new things while their peers settle into rigid routines and familiar patterns. These individuals approach each day with genuine curiosity. They're taking online courses at 82, learning new languages at 75, or figuring out how to use technology that baffles people half their age. Neuroscience has confirmed what these individuals intuitively understand. The brain remains remarkably plastic throughout our entire lives, but only if we continue to challenge it with novel experiences and information. Robert, an 82-year-old retired engineer, decided 5 years ago that he wanted to learn to play the piano. He'd never touched a keyboard in his life, but something inside him yearned for the beauty and complexity of music. His adult children thought he was having a crisis. His friends told him he was too old to start something so difficult. But Robert ignored them all and found a patient teacher willing to work with an eager beginner. Today, he plays simple pieces that bring tears to his eyes and joy to his heart. More importantly, his mind feels sharper, his memory has improved, and he wakes up each morning excited about the progress he'll make that day. Learning keeps the mind flexible, adaptable, and engaged with life itself. It's not about accumulating credentials or impressing others. It's about maintaining that childlike wonder that makes every day feel like an adventure rather than a slow march toward irrelevance. The third quality that defines this rare group is a heart that forgives easily. This might seem unrelated to physical health, but modern medicine has proven that chronic resentment and unresolved anger create measurable damage throughout your entire body. Elevated blood pressure, disrupted sleep, increased inflammation, and compromised immune function all follow in the wake of unforgiveness. The 2% who thrive past 70 have learned that holding on to grudges is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to suffer. Thomas, an 81-year-old man, spent 30 years not speaking to his younger brother over a business dispute that neither could fully remember the details of by the time they were in their 70s. His wife watched as this unresolved conflict consumed him with bitterness, affecting his health and stealing his peace. Finally, After a health scare forced him to confront his mortality, Thomas picked up the phone. The conversation was awkward at first, but within minutes both brothers were crying, apologizing, and reconnecting over shared memories that had been buried under decades of stubbornness. Thomas describes the weeks following that reconciliation as the most peaceful period of his entire adult life. Forgiveness isn't about condoning wrong behavior or pretending you weren't hurt. It's about refusing to let someone else's actions continue to control your emotional and physical well-being years or even decades after the event occurred. The 2% understand that forgiveness is primarily a gift you give yourself, releasing the toxic burden of resentment so your body and spirit can finally heal. The fourth characteristic is perhaps the most emotionally sophisticated of all: the courage to live alone without feeling lonely. There's a crucial distinction here that most people miss. Loneliness is a painful emptiness, a feeling that something essential is missing from your life. Solitude, on the other hand, is a peaceful contentment with your own company, a recognition that you are complete within yourself. The exceptional 2% have mastered the art of solitude without succumbing to loneliness. Eleanor, a 77-year-old widow, spent the first year after her husband's death terrified of being alone. Every silence in her house felt oppressive. Every meal eaten by herself felt like a punishment. But gradually, she began to discover aspects of herself that had been dormant during her 50 years of marriage. She started gardening not because her husband enjoyed it, but because she did. She joined a book club that discussed novels her husband would have hated. She took day trips to places that had never interested him but fascinated her. Today, Eleanor lives alone but not lonely, surrounded by meaningful connections she's cultivated while also deeply appreciating her solitude. This ability to be comfortable with yourself represents emotional maturity at its highest level. It means you've done the internal work necessary to become your own best companion. The 2% don't need constant external validation or distraction because they've built rich inner lives that sustain them through any circumstance. The fifth trait is a body that still moves with purpose every single day. Notice I didn't say a body that exercises intensely or follows complicated fitness regimens. The 2% move with intention and joy, whether that's a brisk morning walk, gentle stretching while watching the sunrise, or dancing in their living room to music from their youth. Movement isn't punishment for eating dessert or a medical prescription they grudgingly follow. It's an act of gratitude toward the body that has carried them through 70 or 80 or 90 years of living. Nancy, a 74-year-old former teacher, walks 3 miles every morning before most of her neighbors are awake. She doesn't wear fitness trackers or compete with anyone. She walks because it makes her feel alive, because it allows her to witness the changing seasons, and because it reminds her that her body is still capable of taking her places. On her walks, she greets other early risers, notices birds building nests, and solves problems that seemed insurmountable the night before. Movement, for Nancy, is both physical maintenance and spiritual practice. The human body was designed for movement, and when we stop moving, everything begins to deteriorate rapidly. Muscles atrophy, bones weaken, balance deteriorates, and even cognitive function declines. The 2% understand that every day they move is a vote for life itself, a declaration that they're not done participating in this world. The sixth quality is the discipline to control what they eat without becoming obsessive or restrictive. The 2% have developed a balanced relationship with food that most people never achieve. They eat for nourishment, energy, and enjoyment, but they don't use food to numb emotions or fill voids in their lives. They're not following the latest fad diet or counting every calorie, but they're also not eating whatever they want, whenever they want, without any consideration for how it affects their bodies. George, a 79-year-old man who still maintains his own home and garden, prepares simple meals with fresh ingredients. He eats when he's hungry and stops when he's satisfied. He enjoys occasional treats without guilt and never uses food as a reward or punishment. George says his secret is simple. He eats to live rather than living to eat. This mindset has kept his weight stable, his energy consistent, and his blood sugar levels within healthy ranges for decades. The science is clear that moderate, balanced eating contributes dramatically to longevity. But beyond the physical benefits, this disciplined approach to food represents emotional maturity and self-respect. The 2% treat their bodies as precious vessels that deserve high-quality fuel, not garbage disposals for processing stress and disappointment. The seventh characteristic is the wisdom to let go of what no longer matters. By the time you reach 70, you've accumulated decades of experiences, relationships, possessions, and beliefs. Most people carry all of this forward, weighted down by regrets about the past and anxieties about the future. The exceptional 2% have learned the art of releasing what no longer serves them. They've let go of grudges that once seemed justified, expectations that were never realistic, and control over outcomes they never could have influenced anyway. Ruth, an 81-year-old grandmother, describes a moment of clarity she had at age 75. She realized she'd spent decades replaying arguments in her mind, revising what she should have said, and holding on to resentment about how others had treated her. One morning, she simply decided to stop. She began treating her thoughts like items in a closet, sorting through them and discarding the ones that no longer fit her life. The peace that followed was transformative. Ruth sleeps better, laughs more easily, and experiences joy in simple moments that she would have missed when her mind was cluttered with grievances. Letting go isn't giving up or admitting defeat. It's recognizing that your emotional energy is finite and precious, and choosing to invest it in what brings life rather than what drains it. The 2% have traded bitterness for understanding, pride for peace, and the exhausting need to be right for the liberating ability to be content. The eighth and final characteristic is perhaps the most powerful of all, a faith that keeps their spirit alive, regardless of circumstances. This isn't necessarily religious faith, though it can be. It's an inner conviction that life has meaning, that they're part of something larger than themselves, and that they can face whatever comes with courage and grace. This spiritual dimension provides the foundation for everything else we've discussed. Harold, an 85-year-old man who has buried a child, survived cancer, and outlived most of his closest friends, radiates a peace that seems inexplicable to those who know his history. When asked how he maintains such serenity, Harold explains that he stopped asking why difficult things happened and started asking what he could learn from them. His faith, he says, isn't about believing everything will turn out the way he wants. It's about trusting that he has the strength to handle whatever comes and that his life has purpose even when he can't see it clearly. This spiritual resilience allows the 2% to face aging and mortality without the debilitating fear that paralyzes so many of their peers. They can laugh in the face of uncertainty, find beauty in unexpected places, and maintain hope even when circumstances seem hopeless. Faith in this sense is the invisible force that keeps their spirits young even as their bodies age. So here's what all of this means for you. You might be listening to this and thinking that you're not part of this exceptional 2%, that you've already lost too much ground to ever catch up. But that's simply not true. Every single one of these characteristics can be developed starting today, regardless of your current physical condition, your past choices, or your present circumstances. You don't need to master all 8 traits immediately. Pick one that resonates most deeply with you and begin there. If your body has become stiff and immobile, start by sitting on the floor for 5 minutes a day while you watch television. If your mind has grown stagnant, sign up for one online course about something that genuinely interests you. If your heart carries old wounds, write a letter of forgiveness that you may never send, but that releases you from the prison of resentment. If loneliness haunts your days, begin building the relationship with yourself that will make solitude feel like a gift rather than a punishment. The 2% who thrive past 70 aren't superhuman. They're simply people who made different choices, who refused to accept decline as inevitable, and who understood that aging is as much about mindset as it is about biology. Your body is remarkably resilient. Your mind is more adaptable than you've been told, and your spirit is capable of growth and transformation at any age. The choice is yours. You can continue down the path that 98% follow, slowly surrendering your vitality, your independence, and your joy. Or you can join the exceptional 2% who prove every single day that growing older can mean growing stronger, wiser, and more fully alive. Start today with one small change. Your future self will thank you for the courage to begin. If this message resonated with you, please share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe to this channel for more practical wisdom about aging with strength and purpose. And most importantly, leave a comment below telling us which of these 8 characteristics you're committing to develop. Your journey toward exceptional aging begins with that first small step. Will you take it today?